Hey all, welcome back to the channel, and yes, finally, I feel like that this has been a long time coming. We have reached the apex, if you will, the conclusion, the pièce de résistance when it comes to the Transformers Legacy Menasor. We're going to look at him in his combined form, but before that we're actually going to compare like Stunticons in vehicle mode to Stunticons in I guess Legacy Stunticons in vehicle mode to Combiner Wars Stunticons in vehicle mode. We're going to compare Legacy Stunticons in robot mode to Combiner Wars Stunticons in robot mode. And then finally, we're going to look at the combined mode of Menasor from Legacy compared to the combined form of Menasor in Combiner Wars. And I think you're going to see that which one works out best largely depends on the sort of Menasor you're looking for. Let's jump into the latest GotBot True review. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And as I mentioned, this is going to be kind of a Stunticon to Stunticon comparison, and it's going to be a combiner to combiner comparison. In the past, we have looked at all of the members, and we've looked at them next to their Combiner Wars counterparts. I might even reiterate that fact in the main review. We're not doing any of the transformations here, because we've seen those transformations in the past, right? We've seen how they get to their arm modes, or leg modes, or how, you know, Motor Master becomes an entire body. We've seen all of that already. I will, I'm sure, throughout put in some cards in case you want to reference how to do those transformations. What we're going to focus on here is which set of vehicles looks better, looks more like the traditional, let's say, Stunticons, which set of robots, and then finally, which of the combiners is most successful. Keep in mind that my Combiner Wars one has had a number of modifications made to it. So yeah, there's definitely a strong subjective nature to this review. I'll try and keep it as subjective as I can. I'll try and cover all the bases and all the angles to give you food for thought to decide which version of Menasor might be the best for you. So without any further ado, how about we head over to the table and take a closer look at a couple of sets of Stunticons. And here to start us off, we have both teams in their vehicle modes. The Combiner Wars ones have their hand, feet, pieces on them. Very gaudy. Motor Master does not have his trailer, and to be fair, I have a couple of pieces sticking out here from his wind vane. We also have Blackjack down front. Now, we'll see Blackjack as a chest piece, but when we do the robot modes, I'm not going to put Blackjack in robot mode because we don't have anything to kind of compare him to. Equally, though you'll hear me reference off-road, we're not going to see off-road in robot mode or as a limb because I do have a Wild Rider to compare to Wild Rider. So just a couple of caveats there before we get started. I'm also going to mention, and you might hear me mentioning this a couple of times, this is about 3 times the cost, assuming you buy it all at regular retail. It's about 3 times the cost of this, at least where I live. So keep all of that in mind as we go through, because it will be pertinent, right? It will be something that we'll have to certainly consider. So before we go on, let's just very quickly look at each of the vehicles in comparison to each other up a little bit closer. But I can say at this point that naturally the Combiner Wars are more stylized, at least for the most part, as where the Legacy is indeed more G1 accurate to the animation. Easiest to start off here, nose to nose, is breakdown and breakdown. I think the Combiner Wars one isn't as nice of a shade of white. It's more beigey. But I do think the car mode is more of a success with the Combiner Wars one because it's closer to being a Lambo than this one is. This one kind of has the back end of a Lambo and the front end of a Ferrari. The Combiner Wars one is sort of a mix between a Code Zero and a Diablo, kinda, sorta. So neither one of these really hit the mark in vehicle mode, but I do think the Combiner Wars one is more the shape that we think of. I think I could have accepted this one even better had they at least remolded the front end, the hood piece. Maybe that would have been enough to save it. I don't know. And again, we have Legacy to Combiner Wars. I mean, the Legacy pretty much nails it. Again, the animation didn't have the stripe, but I'm glad the stripe is here, even though that's not animation accurate. I am glad it's here. The overall look is a little more sleek. It's less busy because it doesn't have the gray pieces, nor does it have the pipes sticking out the side. They were accessories, or the hand-foot piece. Just the two blasters, and they store pretty cleanly. Yes, this looks more like what I would expect a dead end to look like. And next up we have drag strip to drag strip. This is the, I don't think it was a prototype. I think it was used in racing for a couple of years, but this is the sixth wheel, oh my lord, six wheel version of, I think it's a Formula One racer. I don't know a lot about race cars. This is your typical one via the Combiner Wars. The Combiner Wars certainly far more stylized for G1 accuracy. The sea of yellow with the red stripes, definitely the Legacy takes it there. So I like both for different reasons, but I gotta say, I feel like despite the fact that it doesn't have an ankle, I feel like I actually sort of prefer the robot mode of the Combiner Wars one a little bit more. In vehicle mode, I gotta say, the Legacy one takes it. Plus, mine happens to have a seat up right here. This is an add-on kit. I'll probably mention it again later, but it is an add-on kit that goes to the back of his head basically and fills in the hollow head. And that was afforded to us by our buddy Joe. And Wild Rider to Wild Rider. Now, I like off-road. I plan to keep him as a Decepticon anyway. I think the guy is neat. I think it's a neat character. It's cool how he chose colors to homage Wild Rider. However, it was nice to finally get an official Wild Rider, especially since he had come out in the Japan box set for Unite Warriors. It was nice that we finally got him in North America as well. That said, this darker gray seems more accurate to me. Undoubtedly, the vehicle mode is more accurate, cleaner, again with just two blasters compared to the hand-foot piece thing. Not as much red on the side of this guy. A sea of it on the side of the Combiner Wars one. I liked the Combiner Wars one, but the colors always did throw me off. So for look, again, I feel like this one takes the cake. In terms of engineering, and I might mention this again, but in terms of engineering, man, they're pretty darn similar. More on that a bit later. Motormaster to Motormaster. I mean, do I really need to say anything at all here? I don't think so. I think this speaks for itself. Obviously, the Legacy is the better iteration of the character and the one that is certainly more G1 accurate. Okay, so now we've seen the overview of the vehicle modes, Combiner Wars stylized, Legacy, G1-ified to a very strong degree. More than I think it was originally intended to be. Let's go from these guys looking like this in their vehicle modes to the way that they look in their robot modes. And here we have the totality of both teams in their robot modes. And I mean, just a couple of quick notes here because I've already reviewed these guys. I prefer the head of the Combiner Wars dead end, but I prefer most of the rest of the coloration of this guy, though I don't like his lower body, especially his feet. He does tend to lean back. The breakdown in robot mode, this one is definitely better because I detest the hips of the Combiner Wars. Plus, I like the closer to white color here than on the Combiner Wars with its more beigey color. Motormaster to Motormaster, there's absolutely no comparison. The Legacy, hands down, absolutely 100% superior. The two drag strips, Honestly, there are things done differently. I didn't feel like one was any better than the other. I just felt like they were different. Though this guy does have ankle tilt, but he has a kind of a loose, janky waist. At least my copy does, right? Then we get to Wild Rider. Some people don't even have Wild Rider with Combiner Wars. They have Off-Road. And while I still have Off-Road kicking around, I was one of the people who lucked into getting the, I think it was like an online exclusive or something, of Wild Rider. And I like the Wild Rider, no doubt about it. I prefer the transformation, the simplicity of the transformation of the Combiner Wars. I prefer the coloration of the Legacy. It's a matter of degrees, right? The Legacy, obviously more G1 accurate. The Combiner Wars, stylized, but still good in its own right. Very quickly, I'm just going to cycle through each of these comparisons one-on-one. And of course, you can see that the Legacy here is obviously more animation accurate, but I will give credit where credit is due. The Combiner Wars looks a little more dynamic. To be fair, I guess both of them have slight imperfections, but if you're choosing one to be closer, you would definitely want to go with the Legacy. Drag strip to drag strip, obviously, the Combiner Wars far more stylized. It doesn't have ankle tilt, but it has a solid waist. This guy doesn't have a solid waist. The Combiner Wars highly stylized with a lot of maroon that he shouldn't have. I guess they did it to break up the sea of yellow, though the Unite Warriors version was a sea of yellow. Again, if you're going for G1 accuracy, this is the way to go. Mine also has the back of his head filled in, thanks to a little seat upgrade kit that we took a look at a while ago, thanks to our buddy Joe. I do, however, like the look of this face a bit more. It looks more sinister and almost like it's almost like he's crying blood. Like, it's pretty sinister, I gotta say. But for G1 accuracy, this is still the way to go. The Legacy is still the way to go. I'll give credit where credit is due. Wild Rider to Wild Rider. Obviously, the Legacy is definitely closer to accurate. A couple of little imperfections on it, but nothing worth talking about. The backpack's certainly not correct. Both head sculpts are great. While I like the purple on the chest over here, it's not right, nor are the red thighs. Again, the Unite Warriors version had gray thighs, it had blue on the chest. It was far closer to animation accuracy. I was happy to have Wild Rider, but I was always bothered by his color imperfections. That being said, I don't know why this one costs so much more because, to be quite frank, the transformation is pretty much the same. Whereas the chest here flips up, the chest here flips out. The head would go up over and kind of hide under the hood. Here, it goes into the body. The arms do the exact same thing. They both turn at the waist. The legs do the exact same thing. The only difference is that this guy has feet that tab in after and the other guy doesn't. They're really, really close. Again, the Legacy, but I don't feel like it was worth the price. And poor breakdown is always the Limbot, the team member that gets the shaft. It's always the guy who gets like shortchanged. I detest the Combiner Wars. I loathe those hips. Plus, I find his feet like to flip up, so he does tend to fall over a fair bit. But then we have this guy, who is just the Wild Rider mold. And while I think the tolerances are probably just a touch better on him, honestly, it's still not right. And when you go to the vehicle mode, oh man, it's not even the right vehicle, not even really close to it. Yeah, the rear end of it probably seems like a Lambo, but that front end, like we've been saying all along, is obviously a Ferrari. It was the weirdest thing, I don't know. Like I said before, they should have remolded the front end. And the leader of the team, Motormaster, I mean, the Combiner Wars one is certainly bigger, but it's definitely not better. Hands down, the Legacy version of Motormaster, forget about combining or anything. Just as an iteration of the character of Motormaster, the Legacy far, far, far exceeds the Combiner Wars. I have to be honest about it. Certainly in terms of animation accuracy, the Legacy beats the tar out of the Combiner Wars. And I like the Combiner Wars fine enough. So for me to be saying that, man, the Legacy must have been something special. So there you go. That's kind of all 5 that we've gone through very quickly now. There's only one thing left to do. The pièce de résistance. The be-all, the end-all. Let's compare Menasor to Menasor. And yes, indeed, finally, here we have Menasor and Menasor. And a lot of this is going to boil down to, I guess at the end, I guess it's going to boil down to your personal preference. Now, we've seen them as their vehicle modes, and undoubtedly, the legacy vehicles, despite breakdown, really kind of wins that in terms of being an homage to the G1 Stunticons, right? They really kind of encapsulate that team nicely, whereas the Combiner Wars are a stylized version. When it comes to the robots, same thing. Obviously, the Legacy takes the win there in terms of look. Though, to be fair, I do find some of the Legacy transformations to be more finicky and cumbersome than they need to be. Then we get here, the combined mode, the pièce de résistance. And while I still think the Legacy captures the G1 look better, I think I enjoyed the Combiner Wars, my custom Combiner Wars one, better overall. And there's a few reasons for that. It's not going to be for everyone. This is definitely something that is kind of personal to me. So let's talk about the weaknesses of the Combiner Wars, because we don't need to go over the whole thing there. We'll do it, you know, so that we know kind of what I'm referencing in relation to this. The Combiner Wars is slightly shorter. The Combiner Wars has an odd looking torso, we all know that. I didn't have any issues with my hips, really. Mine like I guess the flap that comes up over the hip tabs in just fine. And sometimes I didn't even do that. I didn't want them to tab in, so I just angled his hip ratchets higher and had him stand a little taller. This is really his stock configuration. I wish that the foot of Wall Rider stayed pegged in better than it does. That's a tolerance issue. I find that the hand holding the sword that's plugged into drag strip here sometimes likes to come out a little bit, but I do love the sword. I did have to do work on the chest and thicken up some pegs and whatnot to make sure that Blackjack stays on there, and that's definitely a stylized chest. But you know what? I was never against Blackjack being on there. I think that that's kind of a cool feature. The head has curved horns and a screaming face, but I kind of like that head because it's dynamic. Though I do love the G1 accuracy of this head, no doubt about it. The biggest issue for me was the looseness of the shoulders of the Combiner Wars. If I didn't fix that, then I would totally be on board with everybody saying that this one is way better. But I did fix it. Using the wind vane piece, I drilled a hole through it. I had a spare, I don't know what you call it, I guess it was kind of a crossbow type of thing. They came with Transformers Prime Beast Hunters RC, and that had like 2 handles on it. I took that apart and I put the handle through the hole, and now when the arm folds up, the hand goes over that peg. Additionally, I also took the forearms of Motormaster apart and exchanged them with the forearms of the Battle Core Optimus Prime and done some custom paint work, because I guess the rectangular tabs on the forearm of Motormaster never did tab in first or last, but the pegs, the rectangular pegs on the forearms of Battle Core Optimus Prime do peg in. So each shoulder now is connected by the rectangular peg that's supposed to go in by the chest of Motormaster, as well as a 5mm peg gone through the wind vane into the hand. Now the arms are very solid. He stands like a champion. But again, remember, that's with things fixed. There's no looseness on this guy now. He does not topple over or fall over. He stands just fine. I can get him in lots of poses. I've used him in Universal Collision. So I've made him versatile, even though his stock release, not so much. I'm going to just take him out of it because we kind of don't need him here now to talk about this. So, very first thing to note that I don't like here as much as the Combiner Wars one is that this guy has a bit of parts forming in terms of something left over in combine mode, namely all of that. This whole piece here. Now, you might say, GotBot, what do you have done there? I took the blaster that comes with Breakdown and I put it in a peg hole back here. It has a peg hole in it as well. All of this is just attached to that. I can easily just take that off. But then this is left with nothing to do unless you get an upgrade kit. And you shouldn't have to get an upgrade kit for that. So generally, that's left off to the side. That's something we don't have with the Combiner Wars. I will admit that this one is clean. Very, very clean. But it's not really a combiner now, is it? Because all of this is the Motormaster being the torso, and the rest is just his trailer opened up. This is Motormaster masquerading as Menasor and putting on his clothes, right? Dead End and Drag Strip are both sleeves. There's a gimmick where when you put these on, you're supposed to be able to kind of open out the hinges and this just comes apart. I've been saying all along that it absolutely does not work on mine. I've managed to get it to work, but it does not feel good or comfortable at all. I would highly advise, if yours is tolerant to anything like mine, I would highly advise you separate them before putting them on the arms. This arm over here, pretty good. Overall, we'll talk about the articulation in a minute. This arm over here, the top part of Dead End, loves to fall off. As I do the articulation, don't be shocked if it falls off. I also find that the elbows, they do like to kind of bend in a little bit sometimes with certain movements at this hinge and this hinge. So you might find that, you might not. We'll see. Then we get to the legs. A lot of people, though this is animation accurate, a lot of people really, really put out about the idea that the vehicles are now on the back. I mean, they're not even pants. Wild Rider and Breakdown become calves. They become calves to the legs. This guy definitely has more mass though than the Combiner Wars. He feels honk and chunky, and I do like that. I'll give credit where credit is due. In terms of the looks, I gotta give the overall here a 10. It looks like the cartoon. It really does. I can't deny it. The transformation between modes and stuff to get here is finicky at best. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I don't enjoy getting here. I don't find the arm gimmicks work, certainly not well, but some people have said that theirs work fine. I can only go on my experience. I wish that they were more actual limbs than feeling like clothes. Back here, he is terrifyingly tight. Wild Rider, terrifyingly tight. Breakdown, not so much. Breakdown is probably the way it's intended to be. The sword is abysmal, but I do like that we don't have parts forming of the hands and feet, so it's weird, right? Because I did complain about the parts forming of this, but unlike the Combiner Wars, which has unfortunate parts forming with the hands and feet, this guy doesn't have that. So, I don't know, 6 in one, half dozen in the other, I guess, right? So the transformation, so the look 10, transformation, like I said, 7.5. What about the articulation in this combined mode? The articulation as is out of package, just stock for the Combiner Wars, has, you know, a lot of people complain about the hips of it. A lot of people have complained about how the shoulders don't hold. So it's like a 4 or 5. With my fixes, it's a solid 8, 8.5. This guy, we have a head that goes left and right. I guess it can look up, but you're kind of untabbing it. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Can't really look down. That's unfortunate. The arm, this arm here can go all the way around on a ratchet. Well out to the side on a ratchet. Taking this apart and getting this whole piece off, by the way, I find terrifying as well. I'll bring that down. Elbow to 90 degrees and a swivel, and I guess kind of an inward motion a little bit if you really, really wanted to use it, but that's really more for transformation. This arm over here also goes all the way around. Again, all the way out, and he's coming off. Bring that down. See what I mean by like this kind of coming in sometimes? So a bit of an inward motion, I guess, if you want it. 90 degrees there. By the way, the wrists, they do rotate on a ratchet as well. So I'll give credit where credit is due there. They both have wrist swivel though, right? Just done in a different manner. Waist. That's a big feature that this guy has that the Combiner Wars one does not have. I'll give credit where credit is due. The legs go all the way out to the side. Both of them do that. They can go, bring this down, all the way back, all the way forward. I mean, little over 90 degrees at the knee, honestly. Swivel at the thigh and ankle tilt. Again, the Combiner Wars doesn't have ankle tilt, though it could have a swivel, but it doesn't have tilt. And I'll give credit where credit is due. He's solid. As a Menasor, as a Transformer, like, I gotta give the articulation, I wish that he had fingers. 9.5, we'll say the articulation's a 9.5. So 10 for the look, because it is what it is. It's definitely animation accurate, whether you like that or not. Then 7.5 for the transformation, because I kind of find it kind of fiddly. And a 10 for the articulation. I mean, or a 9.5 for the articulation. I mean, he's good. There's no doubt about it. Overall, it's a solid 9.25 of a Menasor. However, there are people that complain and would like to be able to have the legs with the vehicles facing up front, and you could turn it around for sure. But when you do so now, you don't have use of the knee. But I mean, you could do it. It's not animation accurate, but you can do it. There are people who will say the Combiner Wars is good enough, especially if they've done the fixes. I think the Combiner Wars is great with the fixes, or if you have some of the upgrade kits. Do you need to go in on new combiners? I don't think so. I did it with this guy as A, an experiment, and B, because it is more animation accurate, and I'm an animation accurate kind of guy. I always have been. I love the Combiner Wars. The question boils down to this. All in, this is about 3 times the price of a Combiner Wars combiner. Was it worth 3 times the price? I don't think so. Luckily, I got some of mine on sale, so I didn't quite pay that. At full retail, if you paid that, you're paying more for this than the Combiner Wars. Is it better? This is where the like whole, I guess, personal side of it comes in. To me, no, I don't think it's that much better, though a waist is nice. I feel like the Combiner Wars one is more of a combiner than this. But some people will say this is the Menasor I've always been waiting for. At first, I had no interest in this because I'd heard it was so much bigger. But as you can see, with him next to the Combiner Wars, this guy actually fits in quite nicely with the scale of other Combiner Wars combiners. So even if you want to go in on him, even if there's 1 or 2 others, if you're happy with your Combiner Wars combiners, you don't need to replace them all. You just need to replace the ones that you were never happy with to begin with. And for some people, Menasor will absolutely fill that bill. And here we are once again, and here they are. So, first things first. In terms of vehicle modes, I think the Legacy still takes it. I like the Combiner Wars, don't get me wrong, and I love the addition of a 6th member. Though Blackjack by rights should be a Micromaster, I'm okay with him being part of the Stunticons and revisioned here a little bit. But in terms of vehicles, overall, the Legacy takes it, with the one weakness being breakdown. The Combiner Wars breakdown is definitely a bit better. Not perfect, but definitely a bit better. In terms of robot modes, again, I have to give the overall look for capturing G1 accuracy to the Legacy. If you want a stylized look for them, then go with the Combiner Wars. Honestly, I still like, though it's stylized, I still like the head of of Dead End. No, not Dead End. Of Dragstrip. I still like the head. Actually, I like the head of Dead End better here, too. I kind of like the head of Dead End and Dragstrip better on the Combiner Wars, even though it's stylized. But for G1 animation accuracy, yes, in vehicle mode, yes, in robot mode, these guys take it more than these guys. Then we get to the combine mode. Neither of these combiners are perfect. This is a skeleton wearing clothes. A lot of people would like to have the vehicles out front, even though that's not animation accurate. In terms of animation accuracy, again, this guy looks more like the cartoon. This guy, highly stylized. However, we get then to functionality. If we compare stock to stock, then this guy is more solid. He probably has I don't know if he has a bigger range of motion, but he has a solid range of motion. The fingers do not articulate, so while he has a wrist, his hand is actually more limited than the hand-foot piece of the Combiner Wars. But at the end of the day, a lot of people have had the same gripe and said he doesn't feel like a combiner. He feels like Motor Master with a bunch of junk on him. He definitely has much more mass than this guy, though this guy has some good mass as well. Stock at a package, this guy displays all right, even with the weird torso. And the reason I say it displays all right is because at least it's a true blue combiner, where an arm is an arm, not a sleeve on an arm. It really depends on what you're looking for. If you want something that's going to be a true blue combiner, then the Combiner Wars is probably the way to go. If you want something that's going to look like the cartoon, and you can accept that it's really just Motor Master wearing clothes, then the Legacy is the way to go. Stock at a package, I would choose the Legacy. If you're willing to either get some add-on kits or do some fixes, then the potential is there for the Combiner Wars to be a really excellent version of Menasor. The biggest weakness here, definitely the torso. They totally should have redone the torso. A lot of people wanted these limbs on this torso. You can kind of do it with the legs, at least, if you want to. And yes, they do fit, regardless of what people say, the legs do fit. But then the arms look a little bit too long. It's too bad that there wasn't a way to kind of incorporate the arms without 3D printing something or some such thing. There's a lot of subjectivity here. At the end of the day, here's my two takes. Stock versus stock, the Legacy is going to win just for solidity. Stock versus modified or add-on kit, there's debate here about which one you would want. Do you prefer a true blue combiner or do you prefer animation accuracy? That is going to have to be a personal call up to you. If you're happy with your Combiner Wars, whether you've modded it or fixed it or add-on kit or whatever, or left it, then I don't really see a reason for you to upgrade. Like, if you're happy with this, then there's no reason to upgrade. If you were never happy with this, if you didn't like it stock, if you didn't do any fixes, if you didn't get any add-on kits, if you just plain never liked this, then the Legacy is probably the way to go, even though it is quite a bit more expensive. And that's the other thing. This here in my neck of the woods is teetering, assuming you pay full price, which I didn't, is teetering on 3 times the cost of this. Is there 3 times the value? I don't know. That's hard to say, because I feel like that they're both accomplishing the same thing, but in different ways with different degrees of success for different reasons. Make of that what you will. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. Don't forget to please hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and especially don't forget that somehow, man, some way, each and every single solitary day, you do make a difference in the world, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way, right here, inside the videos.